What is your name?
And I'm Asha.
My name is Kate.
My name is Holly.
Ava.
My name's Lara.
My name is Larissa Krystle.
My name's Reece Cooper.
What is type 1 diabetes?
Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease. So basically your immune system attacks the beta cells in your pancreas that produce insulin.
And insulin is super important. It helps as a hormone to move sugar out of your blood into your cells for energy. And without it, you can't survive. So we then learn to check our sugar and keep it within a tight range and inject insulin all day so that we can manually do that.
How did you sleep last night?
We actually had pizza for dinner last night, so I didn't sleep as well as I normally would have because the phone was alarming to say it was quite high, but I went into that knowing that would be the case. So I had a broken sleep, but I'm just used to broken sleep. He always sleeps well, don't you?
Thanks for asking. I had a great sleep last night. I slept all the way through, no CGM alarms. I had a dinner that was a bit lower carb, so I found that, it didn't rise overnight and I slept really well.
I actually turned my high alarm off recently because it was waking up me as well as our kids being woken up, and like that third wake up thing was just like not happening. So if I'm a little bit high overnight, I kind of just let it go at the moment so we get some sleep. And I even find like when I sleep better, my sugars are better. So if I'm not being woken up by high alerts, I just leave my low alert on so I get woken up if my sugars are going too low.
How did I sleep last night? I didn't sleep at all. We had a few high alarms and then close low alarms and then a baby that needed to be fed.
Last night I slept okay, but my husband and I were talking about this just this morning actually. Nights are pretty crazy a lot of the time, especially if he's been particularly active during the day, and often they can have their hypos during the night, so they don't have hypos straight away after lots of activity. They can have it a bit later on, and so some nights his alarm will go off 5 times and we have to get up and give him some carbohydrates. I'm so grateful for those alarms though. Like sometimes I think of parents before we had this technology of, I believe they would get up every 2 hours just to prick their finger and check to make sure. And so I can't imagine how parents got any rest before we had that technology. But speaking of that technology, as wonderful as it is, sometimes it doesn't work great. So a lot of the times when his alarm goes off over and over again at night, it's a false alarm. So sometimes if they're laying on their glucose monitor, that can give a false reading of a low. And so my husband or I will have to get up and kind of squeeze some blood back into his arm and shift him and then lay in his bed for 15 minutes or half an hour to wait for the blood sugars to go, or for the reading to go back up. So sometimes our night can just be that of fake readings and alarms. And so that probably happens about probably 2 to 4 nights a week of just, getting up at least once to give him some carbohydrates or to prick his finger to double check that it's a correct reading. He is asleep through all of it. Like in the morning, he's like, oh, did you come into my bed? I didn't remember. But we're definitely not asleep for it.
Can you share the moment when you were first diagnosed with type 1 diabetes?
How did you feel?
What were your symptoms?
At 22 months.
4 years old. I remember just feeling completely shocked and floored and like our lives would never be normal again.
I spent a few weeks in hospital, the first little section in ICU.
I was just constantly losing weight.
We were sitting in the resus room and he was being resuscitated with fluids and insulin and sugar going into his body. Just this limp little 1.5-year-old.
I was first diagnosed with diabetes when I was 11, and I remember being so thirsty for weeks leading up to it. I had this like unquenchable thirst. And I remember washing my hair in the shower and clumps of hair were coming out.
Our second night in hospital, I actually wrote this whole like journal in my phone about how, you know, I was going to have this little monitor attached to my baby all the time, and how's life ever going to be normal again? And then at the same time also seeing the other kids in the hospital who were far sicker and realising that, you know, it could also still be worse.
I think still to this day, I suffer with the post-traumatic stress from that. The day of diagnosis and the date, that date, I think will always hit me hard, and remembering that night. The symptoms wise, because I didn't know what diabetes was, or type 1 diabetes was prior to our diagnosis. I didn't know what was wrong. I just went with my mother's instinct that night, and it could have been a total different outcome if I hadn't, because I was misdiagnosed by a doctor.
My husband and I were both crying, as you could imagine. And I kept apologising to the paediatrician, like, I don't know why I'm crying so much. And he looked at me and he said, if you weren't crying, I would think something was wrong with you. And as he said that, I thought, okay, this is a huge diagnosis. It's obviously a chronic illness. It's something that he will have for the rest of his life, unless there's a cure one day. But certainly something that we'd be dealing with as parents for the next, 15, 20 years, helping him with it. So in that moment in the resus room, it kind of hit home, and knowing a little bit about it, because my mother-in-law has it, and I know one of my husband's past girlfriends had it, so he had some experience with someone with type 1 diabetes. And so we both cried and just tried to take in the gravity and the longevity of this thing before us.
The day that I got diagnosed, I went into the doctor's office and she was like, oh, I'd lost more weight, went on the scales, just want to check something. And she did a finger prick test and my sugars were like 21, which is, they should be like 5. And that was a fasting. I hadn't eaten anything that morning, so my blood sugars had obviously been like super high for a long time. I was drinking heaps of water, up all night, all the time, and then everyone put all those things together, and she just basically said, you've got to go to hospital right now. So I drove myself to the hospital, and it was really annoying because I had a friend's bucks party that I was supposed to go to in Melbourne like the next day. And I went to the hospital, it was a Friday afternoon, and then they were like, you can't go home. You have to, they did the antibodies test and figured out it was type 1 diabetes. And then, they got me on insulin, a few small doses, but I had to stay in hospital for like 3 or 4 days and get all the education. So I missed out on the bucks party, which is pretty annoying.
What aspect of your life does type 1 diabetes affect?
Diabetes is just on our mind every moment of the day. And if it's not on our mind, we feel guilty. We feel guilty that we'd forgotten about it. And it's very rare these days that we might forget to bolus him when he's eating something, but we still do. And so if we're not thinking about it, we feel guilty.
I think just like having to relearn a new way of being with diabetes weaved into every area of your life. And that was particularly overwhelming. I remember just giving insulin when you eat, it impacts everything. Even things you wouldn't expect, like silencing your hunger cues. Like you are really, really hungry, it's dinner time and your sugar's high and you can't eat, or waking up in the middle of the night and your sugar's low and you have to eat. And I think that has distorted my relationship with food and eating and my body. It just impacts everything. And I find I find just the necessary need to like slow down, zoom out and think about diabetes all the time. Like you want to eat a burger and you order the burger, but you're not just eating the burger. You've got an array of thoughts going on and calculations, and you're trying to pre-bolus and you're not sure when your meal's coming, and it's just everything becomes tricky. So you want to lean into simplicity, and a lot of the time that means not being out of routine, not traveling, not socializing, not drinking alcohol. So it's trying to find that balance of living a very full life without exhausting your mind.
We had a lot of trouble finding a daycare for him. We wanted him to go to the local community preschool, and they made it very difficult for us. They basically, they basically said they didn't want to take him, and we had to put in a complaint through the Department of Education. We'd gone to this meeting with the educators, and when we walked away from it, the educator was in tears. She's like, I've never seen a family treated like that before. So that was quite shocking. Just that he couldn't then go, like we weren't welcomed at the local community preschool because they had to learn something new.
That was his first year at, was it his first year? First year at preschool. So I was too terrified to leave him there because I was too afraid to leave him there because the teachers weren't up to it at all, and the training wasn't very good for someone to look after him. So I stayed in my car within 200 metres of the school for the first 6 months until I got brave enough. He got a pump. Until I got brave enough to go to the coffee shop. Oh. And that's as far as I'd go. I'd go straight there, order it on the way and come straight back because I was so terrified.
You might miss something.
And basically just watching my phone for 6 months in the car park out front.
Just the real estate that it takes up in your mind. Like, yeah, I love to be present and I love to be like connected in my heart, but you know, that thing just always kind of pulls you out of the experience. Yeah, just, I guess the things I want to do with my daughter that I can do, but I just really have to prepare for. That's what I'm finding challenging in this phase of my life. What were some of the initial challenges you faced in adapting to life with diabetes?
Initial challenges. I knew nothing about type 1 diabetes.
Comprehending that like my child's going to be attached to a device and need insulin to keep him alive for the rest of his life.
I still remember when we got home from hospital, I have a photo of the two of them standing by the fridge crying because I was like, no, it's not eating time, and they're both like crying. But now we just are like, okay, that's fine. Like at school, obviously it's the strict meal times, but when they're at home, like sometimes you're just like, yeah, you can have another snack. Can you have some strawberries? I swear to God, we must be one of the biggest, the diabetic families must be one of the biggest consumers of strawberries in the world, because just have a punnet of strawberries, no carbs, or minimal carbs, don't have to think about it because they don't seem to. So that's a relief, thank God for strawberries.
The initial challenges was I've never looked at the back of the pack of anything in my life. I've never counted carbs. I've never thought about glycemic index. I've never had to basically give a
needle
or
to someone.
A time bomb pretty much to a 3-year-old.
Yeah, I guess initially I found it really challenging when people would ask about my CGM, that you're just trying to figure everything out, understand how to live, and you have to just keep telling the same story over and over again, like multiple times a day to strangers. That I found really hard and had to kind of process what that was about. But yeah, I kind of had it myself, but when it was having to be public, that really challenged me.
What level are you now? Can we see your phone, and what does this mean?
I check on my watch, So I can tell you my sugar level is 10.7. A little bit high. I just had some insulin.
Well, this is actually could be a bit controversial because it's still loading. Should we come back to that one?
We are Ryder's 6.5 and we are straight down.
I just read it.
What? Just say it again.
5.7.
5.7. What does that mean? You steady?
Yes.
Normal?
Yes.
Yes. Normal. For now.
What is it?
6.3 going diagonal down.
And what does that mean?
That my levels are on its way down and I will need sugar soon.
So the arrow straight down means that he's dropping quite fast, which could be due to nerves, excitement, anything and everything.
I'm 10.4. What does it mean? It means my blood sugar is too high, but I've just given myself some insulin, so I'm waiting for it to correct.
Can you finish the sentence, living with diabetes is?
Annoying?
Is just a pain in the butt. It's, to put it nicely, it's just a lot. Every day, every moment, all throughout the night, forever. I don't think there'll be a time where we don't worry about it. So it's a pain in the butt.
Living with it, I mean, it gets pretty annoying. Like while you're trying to do stuff, like you're trying to do something that you like really enjoy and then your levels go low and then you have to sit out and you can see like everyone else just having a fun time. But like you're there just sitting on the side and like getting left out while you have to do all your blood sugars and stuff and you get like real sick of it every now and then.
What would a cure mean?
If there was a cure just tomorrow, if a cure was made tomorrow, I would be excited because Hughey wouldn't have diabetes anymore and finally we could be sneaking cookies in the middle of the night.
A cure would mean freedom, a life free of thinking about diabetes, all the mental load, all the restriction that does come with it. Yeah, freedom.
Everything. If I could take it away in a heartbeat, I would. Yeah, it would mean everything.
Would it mean I wouldn't have to live with this little thing anymore? Which would be great.
It would mean everything to us as parents to know that he doesn't have to think about his health more than the average kid. It would certainly lighten our load tremendously. Yeah, just to know that we don't have to worry about him any more than any other kid as he grows up. Because we all know the big impact that diabetes, whether type 1, type 2, can have on a body and the illnesses and things that it can lead to. So it just would mean everything to have a cure. Like any other person with a chronic illness, it would just be life-changing, life-altering, a burden lifted.
Phil, thank you.
Pleasure, guys. Thank you.
Anything else?
No.
That's all right.
Your dog.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
that's all right.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, come in.
You're up.
Do you want to pick this up?
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you.
Well done.
Thanks. Oh, I made it. It's starting. Thank you, guys.